In the gilded halls of Forbes Park's most magnificent mansion, Maria Elena's trembling hand hovered over the document that would erase everything she had built, while the man who promised to love her forever watched with cold, calculating eyes, waiting for her signature to complete his perfect betrayal. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more thrilling stories, turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update, and sit back, relax, and enjoy this captivating tale. The morning sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Alcantara mansion, casting golden streams across the Italian marble floors. Maria Elena Santiago Alcantara stood in her walk-in closet, her fingers grazing the silk fabrics of dresses that cost more than most Filipinos earned in a year. But the luxury felt hollow now, like a beautiful cage lined with designer labels. She was 42 years old, though people often mistook her for younger. Her success had been her fountain of youth, until recently. Until Ricardo changed. Elena. Nazan Ka. Ricardo's voice boomed from downstairs, sharp and impatient. She flinched. 3 years ago, that voice had whispered promises in her ear at the Manila Hotel's rooftop bar. He'd been charming then, attentive. A self-made billionaire who'd built his empire in real estate development, he'd pursued her relentlessly. And she, foolish, lonely after years of building her own pharmaceutical distribution business, had believed that finally, someone saw her not just as a successful businesswoman, but as a woman worth loving. Pababa N.A., she called back, smoothing her cream silk blouse. Maria Elena descended the curved staircase, her heels clicking against marble. The mansion had been hers before the marriage, a testament to 15 years of 70-hour work weeks, strategic partnerships, and sacrifices that had cost her first marriage and precious time with her now adult daughter, Sophia, who lived in Cebu. The estate sprawled across 2 hectares in Forbes Park, worth 80 million pesos, conservative estimate. The provincial property in Tagaytay, her weekend sanctuary with its coffee plantation and boutique resort, was worth another 40 million. She'd built this empire from a single pharmacy her late father left her. Ricardo stood in the living room, his expensive suit crisp despite the Manila heat. At 55, he was still handsome, silver hair, sharp jawline, the confidence of a man who'd never heard no and meant it. Beside him stood Atty. Ernesto Valdez, their family lawyer, looking uncomfortable. Magandang Umaga, attorney, Maria Elena greeted, confusion flickering across her face. I didn't know we had an appointment today. Sit down, Elena. Ricardo's tone was clipped. Not a request. The first whisper of dread curled in her stomach. Ricardo, Ano Ba, what's this about? She remained standing. I said sit. His eyes flashed. That look, she'd seen it more frequently over the past 6 months. Ever since his latest development project in Bonifacio Global City had hit complications. Ever since money had gotten tighter, though he'd never admitted it outright. Atty. Valdez shifted his briefcase. Mrs. Alcantara, your husband has asked me to prepare some documents regarding the restructuring of your assets. Restructuring. The word felt foreign on her tongue. Ricardo moved closer, his cologne, Tom Ford, expensive, suddenly suffocating. It's simple, Elena. For tax purposes and better asset protection, we're transferring the properties into a corporate structure. You'll sign as co-owner, and I am the sole owner, Ricardo. Her voice was quiet but firm. We signed a prenuptial agreement. The room temperature seemed to drop. Ricardo's smile didn't reach his eyes. Yes, well, things change in a marriage, don't they? We're supposed to be partners. Have you ever felt trapped in a situation where someone you trusted asked you to give up something precious? What would you do? Trust or protect yourself? Drop your thoughts below. Atty. Valdez cleared his throat. Perhaps I should explain the... Let me make this clear, Ricardo interrupted, his voice hardening. My BGC project needs collateral. The bank requires assets for the loan restructuring. Your properties are the solution. Maria Elena's blood ran cold. You want to use my estate, my life's work, as collateral for your debts. Our debts, he corrected. We're married, Elena. What's yours is mine. That's not how prenuptial agreements work, and you know it. The mask slipped. Ricardo's face contorted with rage, there, for just a moment, before he controlled it. But she'd seen it. The real him. Attorney Valdez, can you give us privacy? Maria Elena said quietly. The lawyer looked relieved, gathering his papers. I'll wait outside. When the door closed, Ricardo dropped all pretense. He moved into her space, towering over her 5'4" frame. She refused to step back. You will sign those documents, Elena. No. His laugh was bitter. You think you have a choice? I know about the irregularities in your pharmaceutical imports from 2019. The customs violations. One call to the Bureau of Internal Revenue, and her heart stopped. That was cleared. The auditor said. The auditor who I play golf with every Saturday. Ricardo's smile was cruel. The one whose daughter got into La Salle because of my recommendation? You think paperwork can't be revised? The room spun. This was blackmail. Her husband, the man she trusted with her heart, her home, her bed, was blackmailing her. You wouldn't, she whispered. Try me. He pulled out his phone, showing her a screenshot of an email thread with BIR officials. Sign, Elena. Or I'll make sure you lose everything anyway, and end up in prison while I'm at it. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not in front of him. Why are you doing this? For a moment, something flickered in his expression. Guilt? Regret? But it vanished as quickly as it appeared. Because I can, he said simply. Because you were so desperate for love, you married me without really knowing who I was. Because you're just another asset, Elena. And it's time I liquidated you. The words were bullets, each one finding its mark. 80 to Y. Valdez returned, reading the room's tension. Shall we proceed? Maria Elena looked at the documents on the coffee table. Her entire life, reduced to pages of legal text. She thought of Sophia, of her late father who'd taught her that dignity was the only thing no one could take from you. But they could take everything else. Her hand shook as she reached for the pen. The Mont Blanc pen felt like a weapon in her hand, or perhaps a knife she was turning on herself. Maria Elena's vision blurred as she stared at the documents spread across the Italian marble coffee table. 3 years of marriage, and it had come to this. The air conditioning hummed, but sweat gathered at the small of her back beneath her silk blouse. Page 4, Mrs. Alcantara, 80 to Y. Valdez said softly, his voice apologetic. He wouldn't meet her eyes. Your signature and initials on each transfer document. Ricardo stood by the window, backlit by the Manila skyline, looking every bit the conqueror. He'd positioned himself there deliberately. She knew his tactics now. Always the power stance, always in control. Her hand hovered over the first page. Transfer of ownership, Forbes Park property, title number 394821. 15 years. 15 years of dawn meetings with distributors, of negotiating with hospital administrators, of building relationships with pharmaceutical companies across Asia. She'd started with her father's single pharmacy in Quiapo and built it into a distribution network spanning Luzon. This mansion had been her reward to herself, proof that the daughter of a simple pharmacist could stand among Manila's elite. Elena. Ricardo's voice cut through her thoughts. We don't have all day. I have a meeting with the bank at 2. Of course. His meeting. His bank. His debts that he was erasing with her assets. She thought of Sophia, her daughter. 23 now, working as an architect in Cebu. Sophia had never liked Ricardo, had boycotted the wedding. Mama, something's off about him, she'd said. The way he looks at your properties when he talks about love. I should have listened. Mrs. Alcantara, if you're having second thoughts, why? Valdez began. She's not. Ricardo moved from the window, his leather shoes silent on the marble. He sat beside her, close enough that she could smell his cologne mixing with the scent of her own fear. His hand covered hers on the pen. To anyone watching, it might have looked tender. Supportive. His grip was iron. Think carefully, Mahal, he said, the endearment like acid. Think about those irregularities. Think about your daughter's reputation, an architect whose mother is investigated for customs fraud. That would be unfortunate. Maria Elena's breath caught. You leave Sophia out of this. Then sign. 80 to Y. Valdez looked away, pretending to review another document. Coward. But what could he do? He was just the instrument. Ricardo was the hand wielding it. The pen touched paper. Her signature, Maria Elena Santiago Alcantara, flowed across the line in blue ink. Each letter felt like a betrayal of everything her father had taught her. A knack. Never let anyone make you small. You are Santiago. We bend, but we don't break. But here she was, breaking. Next page, Ricardo said, his voice almost gentle now that he was winning. The Tagaytay property. That one hurt more. The coffee plantation had been her dream, a place where she could breathe, away from Manila's chaos. She'd planted half those trees herself, getting mud under her manicured nails, learning about soil pH and harvest seasons from the local farmers who'd become her friends. The boutique resort had just started turning a profit. 6 cottages overlooking Taral Lake, a farm-to-table restaurant that food bloggers were discovering. She'd named it Santiago's Rest, after her father. Soon it would be Alcantara's. Ricardo's. He'd probably sell it to one of his developer friends, turn it into another soulless condominium project. Her hand moved mechanically. Signature. Initial. Date. Good girl, Ricardo murmured, and she wanted to scream. 3 more documents. The corporate restructuring papers that essentially gave him control of everything. The loan guarantee that made her responsible for his debts. The power of attorney that would let him make decisions about her properties without her consent. She was signing away her entire life, and she couldn't stop. If you were Maria Elena's friend watching this happen, what would you tell her to do? Sometimes we see things clearer from the outside. Share your advice below. Last one, 80 to Y. Valdez said quietly. He looked almost grey, as if this process was aging him in real time. The final document was a spousal waiver. She was waiving her right to contest any of the transfers. Waiving her right to claim them back even in the event of divorce or separation. Ricardo had thought of everything. Her hand trembled so badly now that her signature was barely legible. But it was done. 80 to Y. Valdez gathered the papers quickly, as if they burned his fingers. I'll have these notarized and filed by end of day, he said, already moving toward the door. Mrs. Alcantara, if you ever need. She won't. Ricardo cut him off. Thank you, Ernesto. Send my regards to your daughter. How is she enjoying La Salle? The threat was subtle but clear. The lawyer nodded once and fled. Silence filled the mansion. Maria Elena sat frozen, the pen still in her hand, staring at the coffee table where her entire empire had just been dismantled. Ricardo poured himself a scotch from the bar, her bar, in her mansion, though not for much longer, she supposed. The ice clinked against crystal. You hate me right now, he said conversationally. I understand. But in time, you'll see this was necessary. My BGC project will triple our wealth. Our wealth, Elena. See? I'm thinking of us. She found her voice, though it sounded like it belonged to someone else. You threatened me. You blackmailed me with lies. Were they lies? He took a sip, savoring it. Are you absolutely certain every single customs document from 2019 was perfect? Every tax declaration flawless? Because I've had accountants review your books, and, well, there are always gray areas in business, aren't there? Her blood turned to ice. You investigated me. Due diligence, Mahal. Before we married, actually. You don't think I'd marry someone without knowing exactly what I was getting, do you? He smiled, and it was the cruelest thing she'd ever seen. Your assets were always the point, Elena. You were just the inconvenient attachment. The words landed like physical blows. She stood, legs unsteady, needing distance from him. I loved you, she whispered. You loved the idea of not being alone, he corrected. You were 40 years old, divorced. Your daughter barely spoke to you because you'd prioritized business over family. You were desperate for someone to validate you as more than just a successful businesswoman. I gave you that. And you gave me this. He gestured at the mansion around them. Fair trade. Maria Elena's mind reeled. 3 years. 3 years of marriage, and it had all been a calculated acquisition. She'd been a business transaction. Get out, she said. Ricardo laughed. Get out? Elena, this is about to be my house. Perhaps you should start thinking about where you'll go. The papers aren't filed yet. Until they are. They will be by 5 p.m. He checked his Rolex. It's noon now. I suggest you start packing. I want you out by tomorrow. Tomorrow. The room spun. This is my home. It was your home. Now it's collateral. And honestly, having you here will just be awkward. I'm planning to renovate anyway. The decor is very feminine. He said it like an insult. She couldn't breathe. The walls of her beautiful home, the home she designed, where every art piece had a story, where she'd imagined growing old, were closing in. You can't just throw me out. I have rights. Read the documents you signed, Elena. Particularly the occupancy clause in the corporate transfer. As CEO of the holding company, that's me, by the way, I can determine residence. And I determine you're no longer a resident. His smile widened. Don't worry. I'll have your things sent wherever you end up. Though you might want to travel light. Hotel rooms are expensive, and well, you don't actually have any money anymore, do you? The realization hit her like a truck. Her bank accounts were joint. Her properties were signed away. Her business. She still had her business. I still have Santiago Pharmaceuticals, she said, grasping for something solid. Ricardo's expression turned pitying. Check your corporate documents, Mahal. Remember last year when I helped you restructure for better tax efficiency? When I introduced you to that brilliant accountant? No. No, no, no. You didn't, she breathed. Majority shareholder as of 6 months ago. I've been buying out your minority investors quietly. You didn't notice because you trusted me to handle the boring financial stuff while you focused on operations. He finished his scotch. I'll keep you on as a consultant if you like. 20,000 pesos a month? That's generous for someone with your limited prospects. The room tilted. Everything was gone. The properties, the business, her entire life's work, all of it, gone. Maria Elena gripped the back of the sofa to stay upright. Why? She whispered. Why go through all of this? Why marry me at all? Ricardo set down his glass and approached her. For a moment, his expression softened, almost human. Because you were easy, he said simply. A successful woman desperate enough for love that she didn't ask the right questions. And because, Elena, in this world, you're either the predator or the prey. I learned that a long time ago. He kissed her forehead, a mockery of affection. 24 hours. Be out by noon tomorrow. And Elena? Don't try anything stupid like going to the police or lawyers. You signed everything voluntarily, with legal counsel present. Who do you think they'll believe? He left her standing there, frozen in the living room of the mansion that was no longer hers. The door to his study now, she supposed, closed with a soft click. Maria Elena stood in the golden afternoon light, surrounded by luxury that had become her prison, and for the first time in 15 years of building her empire, she felt completely, devastatingly powerless. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Documents filed. Transfer complete. EV. 80 to Y. Valdez. It was done. She sank to the floor, her silk blouse wrinkling against the marble, and finally, let herself break. The sobs came from somewhere deep, tearing through her chest. All those years. All that work. All that sacrifice. Gone because she'd been lonely. Because she'd wanted someone to love her. Because she'd been foolish enough to trust. Outside, the Manila traffic hummed its indifferent song. Inside, Maria Elena Santiago Alcantara, self-made businesswoman, pharmaceutical empire builder, owner of nothing, wept for everything she'd lost. But deep beneath the grief, beneath the devastation, something else stirred. A ember of rage. Her father's voice echoed in her memory, we bend, but we don't break. She'd bent. She'd signed. She'd given Ricardo everything he wanted. But she wasn't broken yet. Maria Elena wiped her tears, her hand steadying. She had 24 hours. 24 hours to figure out how to survive. And after that, she'd figure out how to fight back. Maria Elena spent that first night on the floor of what used to be her bedroom, staring at the ceiling she'd had painted the color of dawn, soft pink and gold, hopeful colors for a woman who'd believed in new beginnings. What a fool she'd been. At 3 a.m., she finally moved, her body stiff from hours on the cold marble. Ricardo hadn't come upstairs. She could hear faint sounds from his study, phone calls, the clink of glasses. Celebrating, probably. Her phone sat on the nightstand, dark and accusing. She'd turned it off hours ago, unable to face the world. Now she powered it on. 43 missed calls. 6 to 7 messages. Most were from Sophia. Mama, call me. Now. Mama, I saw something on Facebook. Tell me it's not true. Mama. Attorney Valdez's secretary is my friend's cousin. She told me what happened. I'm coming to Manila. I'm at the airport. Don't you dare tell me not to come. The last message was sent 20 minutes ago. I'm outside. Let me in. Maria Elena's heart lurched. She couldn't let Sophia see her like this, destroyed, helpless, a cautionary tale of everything she'd taught her daughter not to be. But even as she thought it, she was moving, rushing down the stairs in yesterday's clothes, her hair a mess, her face swollen from crying. She opened the front door. Sophia stood there in jeans and a wrinkled t-shirt, her overnight bag at her feet, and the moment their eyes met, Maria Elena broke all over again. "Oh, Mama," Sophia whispered, and caught her mother as she collapsed. They sat in the kitchen. Maria Elena had always loved this kitchen with its European appliances and view of the garden, drinking instant coffee because neither of them could manage anything more complicated. "Tell me everything," Sophia said, her voice tight with controlled fury. At 23, she looked so much like her father, Maria Elena's first husband, Fernando, who'd been a good man but wrong for her. They divorced amicably when Sophia was 5, remained friends. He'd passed away 3 years ago, never knowing she'd marry someone like Ricardo. Maria Elena told her. All of it. The blackmail, the threats, the signatures, the revelation that it had all been planned from the beginning. Sophia's coffee cup trembled in her hands. "That hijo de puta," she hissed. "Mama, we have to fight this. There are laws against coercion, against." He was careful. Anak. 80 to Y. Valdez was there. "It looks completely voluntary." "Then we'll prove it wasn't." "We'll." "With what money?" Maria Elena's voice cracked. "He took everything. The business, the properties, even my bank accounts were joint. I have." She checked her personal account on her phone, the one she rarely used, 73,000 pesos. "That's it. That's what's left of 15 years of work." The number hung between them like an obscenity. Sophia stood abruptly, pacing the kitchen. "There has to be something. What about Tita Lorena? She's a lawyer, she could." "Lorena Reyes." Maria Elena shook her head. "She does corporate law, not this. And even if she wanted to help, Ricardo has connections everywhere. The judges, the BIR officials, the police, he wasn't lying about that. I've seen him operate. He collects people like insurance policies." "So what, you just give up?" Sophia's voice rose. "The mother who taught me to fight for everything I want is going to roll over for this bastard. I don't have weapons to fight with." "Then we find some." Sophia slammed her hand on the counter. The sound echoed through the empty kitchen. Footsteps on the stairs. Ricardo appeared in the doorway, wearing a silk robe, hair perfectly styled even at 3 a.m. He'd probably been awake the whole time, waiting to make his entrance. "Sophia," he said pleasantly. "What a surprise. Though I suppose family drama does bring people running." "You," Sophia stepped toward him, and Maria Elena grabbed her arm. "You're going to rot in hell for this." "Probably," Ricardo agreed cheerfully. "But I'll rot there rich. Your mother will rot there poor. I know which I prefer." He moved to the espresso machine, the one Maria Elena had imported from Italy, and began making himself a cappuccino. "I assume you're here to collect her? Good. Saves me the trouble of calling movers." "This is her house," Sophia said through gritted teeth. Was her house. The documents were filed yesterday at 5:03 p.m. As of this morning, everything is legally transferred. Check the registry of deeds if you don't believe me. He took a sip, made a satisfied sound. "I'm keeping the espresso machine, by the way. It's quite good." Maria Elena felt Sophia tense, ready to attack. She tightened her grip. "Sophia. Hindi worth it. His not worth it." "Listen to your mother," Ricardo said. "She's finally learning wisdom." He checked his watch. "You have until noon. That's 9 hours. I suggest you start packing." He left them there, taking his cappuccino back upstairs. Sophia turned to her mother. tears streaming down her face. Mama, we can't let him win. He already has a knack. No. Sophia wiped her eyes roughly. No. Hindi partapos. We're going to figure this out. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling Tita Lorena anyway. Even if she can't take the case, she might know someone who can. And I'm calling Tito Ben. Didn't he work in BIR before he retired? Sophia. And Tita Carmen. She's a journalist. Maybe she can. Sophia, please. Maria Elena's voice broke. Please don't. I can't. I can't give people hope right now, including myself. I need to accept what happened and figure out how to survive. Her daughter stared at her, and Maria Elena saw the disappointment there. The disillusionment. She'd been her daughter's hero once, the strong single mother who'd built an empire. Now she was just another woman who'd been destroyed by a man she'd trusted. Okay, Sophia said finally, quietly. Okay. We'll pack. But Mama, this isn't over. You taught me that Santiagos don't quit. So we're not quitting. We're just regrouping. Maria Elena wanted to believe her. God, she wanted to believe. When everything falls apart, do you fight immediately or do you step back to heal first? Sometimes we need both. But in what order? What would you do? Before we continue, don't forget to smash that like button if you're enjoying what you're seeing. Your support means the world to me and helps this channel grow. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss any of our uploads. We're building an amazing community here, and I don't want you to miss out on what's coming. And please, share this video with your friends, family, or anyone who would love this type of content. The more people we can bring into this community, the better it gets for everyone. Your engagement in the comments has been incredible, and I love reading every single one of your thoughts and theories. Keep them coming. Now, let's go in depth into the story. They packed through the dawn. Sophia worked with military efficiency, dividing Maria Elena's things into essentials and storage. There was too much, 15 years of accumulation. In the end, they filled 8 boxes and 3 suitcases. A lifetime, reduced to luggage. At 7 a.m., Sophia's phone rang. She glanced at the screen, then answered. Tita Lorena? Yes, thank you for calling back so early. She walked into the next room, lowering her voice. Maria Elena continued folding clothes mechanically, each piece a memory. The dress she'd worn to her first Forbes Park charity gala. The blazer she'd worn when she closed her biggest deal. The simple cotton dress she'd worn on weekend mornings in Tagaytay, walking through her coffee plantation. All of it, ending. Sophia returned, her expression strange. Mama, Tita Lorena wants to talk to you. Sophia, I told you. Just talk to her. Please. Reluctantly, Maria Elena took the phone. Lorena. I'm sorry Sophia bothered you so early. Elena, stop. Lorena Reyes's voice was crisp, professional. They'd been friends since college, had stayed loosely in touch over the years. I can't represent you in this conflict of interest. My firm does work for Alcantara Holdings. Maria Elena's heart sank. I understand. But, Lorena continued, I'm calling as a friend, not a lawyer. Off the record. You remember Sylvia Domingo? She graduated 2 years behind us at 8 Neo. Vaguely. Wasn't she in political science? She went into investigative journalism. Works for the Philippine Daily Inquirer now. Elena, 3 months ago, she came to our firm asking questions about Ricardo Alcantara. We couldn't tell her anything due to client confidentiality, but... Maria Elena's pulse quickened. But what? She's investigating him. Something about his BGC project. Allegations of fraud, bribery, money laundering. She's been trying to build a case but needs evidence. Lorena paused. Elena, if Ricardo forced you to sign over your assets, if he threatened you, that's a crime. And if he did it because his financial situation is more desperate than anyone knows, that's a story. Hope fluttered in Maria Elena's chest. Painful, dangerous hope. What are you saying? I'm saying that as of 8 a.m. this morning, you don't legally own anything. Which means you have nothing left to lose. Lorena's voice softened. And a woman with nothing to lose is the most dangerous kind of woman there is. I'm texting you Sylvia's number. What you do with it is up to you. The line went dead. Maria Elena stared at the phone as a text came through. A number. A name. Sylvia Domingo, investigative reporter. Sophia appeared beside her. What did she say? Maria Elena looked at her daughter, young, fierce, believing in justice the way only the young could. Then she looked around her mansion, at the life she'd built and lost, at the boxes of belongings that represented everything she'd sacrificed for. A woman with nothing to lose is the most dangerous kind of woman there is. Ricardo thought he'd won. Thought he'd taken everything. But he'd made one critical mistake. He'd left her alive. Sophia, she said quietly, call your Tita Carmen the journalist too. And that friend of yours, the one who works at BIR, the daughter of Ated Y. Valdez's secretary. Why? Maria Elena's hands had stopped shaking. The tears had dried. Something hard and bright was crystallizing in her chest, not hope exactly, but something fiercer. Rage. Purpose. The determination of a woman who'd built one empire and could burn another to the ground. Because, she said, we're going to war. They moved into a small studio apartment in Quezon City, all Maria Elena could afford with her remaining money. It was a shocking downgrade from Forbes Park. One room, a tiny bathroom, a kitchenette with a hot plate. The entire space was smaller than her former walk-in closet. But it was hers. And it was a base of operations. Sophia pushed the two single beds together, creating a workspace covered in papers, laptops, and notes. On the wall, she'd started a timeline, a visual map of Ricardo's life, his business dealings, his connections. He's too clean, Sophia muttered, staring at it. Nobody is this clean. It was day 3 since the signing. Maria Elena sat on the floor, her laptop balanced on her knees, going through every email she'd ever received from Ricardo. Every text message. Every photo. Looking for cracks in his armor. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Mrs. Alcantara? This is Sylvia Domingo. Lorena Reyes gave me your number. Maria Elena's heart jumped. Ms. Domingo. Yes. Thank you for calling. I'd like to meet. Today if possible. I've been investigating your husband for 4 months, and I think we can help each other. A pause. I heard what happened with your properties. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, Maria Elena said, and was surprised by the steel in her own voice. Be ready to work. When and where? There's a coffee shop in Maginhawa Street. Cafe Adriatico. 2 p.m. I'll be there. Sylvia Domingo was in her early 40s, hair pulled back in a no-nonsense bun, wearing jeans and a blazer that had seen better days. She had the look of someone who'd been chasing stories for 20 years and knew how to spot truth in a sea of lies. They met in the back corner of the cafe, away from other patrons. Tell me everything, Sylvia said, pulling out a recorder. Start from the beginning. When did you meet Ricardo Alcantara? Maria Elena told her story again, but this time, it wasn't a confession of defeat. It was testimony. Evidence. Ammunition. Sylvia took notes, asked questions, her expression growing darker with each detail. The bastard, she muttered when Maria Elena finished. I'm sorry. Professional objectivity flying out the window here. But Jesus, what he did to you. What do you have on him? Maria Elena asked. Sylvia pulled out a folder. His BGC project? It's a house of cards. He overborrowed against properties he doesn't fully own. Some of them belong to investors who don't even know he's used them as collateral. He's also been taking deposits for pre-selling units in buildings that haven't been permitted yet. The money is going somewhere. Not into construction, that's for sure. Money laundering. That's my theory. But I can't prove it. The paper trail is deliberately complex. Shell companies in the Caimans, corporate structures that loop back on themselves. He's good at covering tracks. Sylvia looked up. But here's the thing, fraud this big always leaves traces. Always. I just need someone who knows his business inside, who has access to his files, his communications. I don't have access to anything anymore. But you lived with him. You saw documents, heard phone calls, met his associates. Sylvia leaned forward. Mrs. Alcantara, I need you to remember everything. Every detail, every name, every conversation. Because somewhere in all of that is the thread we can pull to unravel him. Maria Elena closed her eyes, thinking back. 3 years of marriage. 3 years of dinners with business associates, charity galas, weekend trips where Ricardo took calls from investors. He has a safe, she said suddenly. In his study. I saw him open it once. He didn't know I was watching. The combination was... God, what was it? She'd only seen it for a few seconds, his fingers moving across the dial. But she'd spent 15 years memorizing pharmaceutical compounds, dosage calculations, inventory numbers. Her memory for sequences was excellent. 8, 43, 17, 29, she said slowly. I think. I'm not certain. Sylvia wrote it down. What do you think is in the safe? I don't know. Documents. Maybe. USB drives. He was paranoid about digital security, never kept anything sensitive on computers that could be hacked. So the evidence we need might be sitting in a safe in a mansion you can no longer access. They stared at each other. I still have keys, Maria Elena said quietly. He hasn't changed the locks. Not as of yesterday. Sophia drove by to check. Maria Elena's mind was racing. He's arrogant. He thinks I'm too broken to fight back. He probably doesn't think I'd dare. You're talking about breaking into your former home, Sylvia said carefully. That's illegal. I can't advise you to do that. You're not advising me. I'm just thinking out loud. Sylvia's lips curved slightly. Well, hypothetically, if someone were to somehow obtain documents from that safe, and if those documents proved fraud or criminal activity, they might be admissible as evidence depending on how they were obtained and presented. Hypothetically. Hypothetically. Sylvia paused. There's something else you should know. I've been trying to interview Ricardo's previous business partners. Most won't talk. They're afraid of him. But one reached out to me anonymously. A woman named Patricia Cruz. She invested 3 million pesos in one of his earlier projects. Lost everything when it collapsed. She has documents, contracts, emails, showing he deliberately misrepresented the project's status. Maria Elena's breath caught. Where is she now? Hiding. He threatened her when she tried to sue. She dropped the case, but she kept the evidence. She's willing to talk if I can guarantee others will come forward too. Safety in numbers. Sylvia met Maria Elena's eyes. She needs to see that someone is willing to fight him publicly. Someone credible. Like his wife. Ex-wife. Technically. The marriage won't survive this. No. It wouldn't. Maria Elena felt a strange sense of relief at that thought. If I do this, she said slowly, if I go after him publicly, he'll destroy me. The BIR investigation, the customs allegations, he'll make good on every threat. Probably, Sylvia agreed. But here's the thing about bullies like Ricardo. They rely on their victims being too afraid to fight back. Once one person stands up, others find courage. And once the media spotlight is on him, once there's public attention, it becomes much harder for him to make things disappear quietly. Maria Elena thought of her father. Of the pharmacy he'd built through honest work. Of the values he'd taught her. Integrity, courage, dignity. She'd lost those things somewhere along the way. Buried them under the pursuit of wealth and status and, finally, love. Maybe it was time to find them again. What do you need from me? She asked. Sylvia smiled. A fierce, predatory smile. Everything. Your story, your testimony, any evidence you can gather. I'm writing an expose. It'll run in next Sunday's Inquirer, front page if my editor agrees. By the time it prints, we need to have an airtight case. That's 4 days from now. Which means we need to move fast. Sylvia pulled out her phone. I'll contact Patricia Cruz, set up a meeting. You focus on remembering every detail about Ricardo's business dealings. And... She hesitated. If you're serious about that safe, you'd better move fast too. Once this story breaks, you'll never get another chance. Maria Elena's hands trembled, but not from fear this time. From anticipation. There's one more person we need, she said. 80 to Y. Ernesto Valdez. He prepared the documents. He witnessed everything. He knows Ricardo threatened me. Will he talk? He has a daughter in La Salle because of Ricardo's recommendation. He's afraid. Everyone's afraid, Sylvia said. But courage is contagious. We just need to light the first match. Maria Elena pulled out her phone and dialed a number she'd memorized but never thought she'd use. It rang twice. Mrs. Alcantara. 82Y. Valdez's voice was wary. Attorney, I need to meet with you. It's urgent. I don't think that's appropriate. It's about Ricardo's BGC project. And about what happened 3 days ago when you sat in my living room and watched him blackmail me into signing away everything I owned. Silence. Then, I was just the lawyer. I followed proper procedure. You knew it was coercion. You knew it was wrong. And you did it anyway because you were afraid. Maria Elena's voice softened. I understand fear, attorney. I've been afraid too. But fear is what men like Ricardo count on. It's how they win. More silence. She could almost hear him thinking, weighing risks. What do you want? He asked finally. The truth. On record. You're going to testify about what really happened that day. I could lose my license. My reputation. What good is a license earned by helping destroy innocent people? What good is a reputation built on cowardice? She paused. Your daughter is in college now. What will you tell her about the kind of man you are? What kind of example are you setting? She heard him breathing on the other end. Imagined him in his office, surrounded by law books and ethical codes he'd violated for the sake of convenience. There's a journalist investigating Ricardo, she continued. She has evidence of fraud. Other victims are coming forward. This is bigger than just me, attorney. And when it comes out, and it will come out, you can either be part of the problem or part of the solution. He'll ruin me, Valdez whispered. He's already ruined you. You just don't know it yet. Maria Elena's voice hardened. But you can start rebuilding. You can do the right thing. It's not too late. The silence stretched for so long she thought he'd hung up. Then, okay. Where do you want to meet? Maria Elena looked at Sylvia, who was already typing notes into her laptop, and felt something she hadn't felt in days. Power. Not the power that came from wealth or property or status. The power that came from truth. From righteousness. From having nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. Tomorrow, she said. 10 a.m. An attorney? Bring every document you have related to Ricardo Alcantara. Every single one. She hung up and looked at Sylvia. We have our witness. Now we just need the evidence, Sylvia said. Maria Elena thought of the safe. The mansion. Ricardo sleeping in her bed, celebrating his victory. Leave that to me, she said. That night, at 2 a.m., Maria Elena stood outside the gates of what used to be her home. Sophia was beside her, dressed in black, looking nervous and exhilarated. Mama, are you sure about this? Was she breaking into a house that was legally no longer hers, to steal documents from a safe? She thought of her father, of 15 years of work, of every woman Ricardo had probably done this to before and would do it to again if someone didn't stop him. I'm sure, she said, and slipped her key into the gate. It opened silently. Of course it did. She'd had these gates installed, had personally selected the quietest mechanisms. The mansion loomed before them, dark except for a single light in Ricardo's study on the second floor. He was awake. Maria Elena's heart hammered, but she didn't retreat. She led Sophia around to the side entrance, the one that led to the kitchen, the one whose alarm code she still knew. She punched in the numbers. The panel blinked green. They were inside. The kitchen was dark, silent, exactly as she'd left it 3 days ago. It felt like a lifetime. The study is upstairs, Maria Elena whispered. But if he's still awake. Then we wait, Sophia said. We have all night if we need it. They crept into the living room and settled behind the sofa. The Italian leather one Maria Elena had imported from Milan, that now belonged to Ricardo. And they waited. The minutes crawled by. An hour. 2. At 4 a.m., the light in the study finally went dark. Footsteps on the stairs. Ricardo, moving to the master bedroom. They waited another 30 minutes, listening to the house settle into sleep. Then they moved. Up the stairs, careful to avoid the third step that creaked. Down the hall. To the study door. It was locked, but Maria Elena had a key for this too. One she'd had made years ago when she still believed this was her home, her sanctuary. The door opened. The study smelled like leather and scotch and Ricardo's cologne. His domain. His fortress. Not for much longer. Maria Elena moved to the safe, hidden behind a false panel in the bookshelf. Her hands shook as she spun the dial. 8, 43, 17, 29. Click. The safe opened. Inside were USB drives, documents, folders thick with papers. She didn't have time to review them, just grabbed everything, shoving it all into the bag Sophia held open. "Mama, look," Sophia whispered, pointing to a folder labeled personal files. Maria Elena pulled it out. Inside were documents about other women. Investment records. Marriage certificates. Divorce filings. Her blood ran cold. There were 3 of them. 3 other women Ricardo had married. 3 other women whose assets had somehow been transferred to him before the marriages ended. She wasn't his first victim. She was just the latest. Dios KO, Sophia breathed. He's done this before. Maria Elena's hand steadied. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about every woman Ricardo had destroyed. Every woman he would destroy if someone didn't stop him. She took the folder. Took everything. They were almost to the door when the lights blazed on. Ricardo stood in the doorway, wearing silk pajamas, holding a phone. "Hello, Elena," he said pleasantly. "I've been expecting you." Time seemed to freeze. Maria Elena clutched the bag of evidence against her chest, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst through her ribs. Ricardo leaned against the door frame, utterly calm, utterly in control. Or so he thought. "Breaking and entering," he said, skiing softly. "That's a criminal offense, Elena. I could call the police right now." He held up his phone, thumb hovering over the screen. "In fact, I should. You're trespassing in my home, stealing my property." "Your home." Maria Elena's voice was steadier than she expected. "Your property? Everything in that safe is evidence of your crimes, Ricardo. You know it. I know it. And soon, everyone will know it." His smile faltered, just for a second, but she saw it. "You've lost your mind," he said. "The stress of losing everything has clearly—" "I found the other women," Maria Elena interrupted. She pulled out the folder, held it up. Teresa Villanueva, 2015. Carmen Santos, 2017. Patricia Cruz, 2019. Should I go on? 3 wives before me. 3 women whose assets you stripped before divorcing them. You have a pattern, Ricardo. A very clear, very criminal pattern. The mask cracked. His expression went cold, dangerous. "You have no idea what you're doing," he said quietly. "Those documents are private. Taking them without permission is theft. Any lawyer will get them thrown out as inadmissible." "Maybe," Sophia cut in, stepping protectively beside her mother. "But they'll make a hell of a news story, won't they? Especially when combined with the investigative report that's running in Sunday's Inquirer. You know, the one about your BGC fraud? The money laundering? The investors you've been scamming." Ricardo's face drained of color. "What? Did you really think Mama was just going to disappear quietly?" Sophia's smile was sharp. "You underestimated her. You thought breaking her meant you'd won. But all you did was wake up a dragon. Have you ever underestimated someone only to realize they were stronger than you thought? Sometimes our greatest mistake is thinking quiet people are weak. Share your story below." Ricardo moved into the room, and Maria Elena saw calculation in his eyes. He was already thinking, already planning his counterattack. "Let's say you have some documents," he said slowly. "Let's say you've talked to a journalist, though I doubt any reputable paper would run a story based on stolen evidence and the ravings of a bitter ex-wife. But let's pretend. What exactly do you think will happen, Elena? You'll be exposed. Investigated. Arrested." He laughed. Genuinely laughed. "Arrested? For what? Marrying women who willingly signed over their assets? For being a successful businessman? You think the courts will believe I forced anyone to do anything? You signed those documents with a lawyer present. Everything was legal. Everything was voluntary. It was coercion. Prove it." His eyes glittered. Prove I threatened you. Prove I blackmailed you. It's your word against mine, Elena. And I'm a billionaire with connections to judges, prosecutors, senators. You're a disgraced businesswoman who lost everything. Who do you think they'll believe? The words hit like physical blows because they were true. The system was rigged. It always had been. But Maria Elena hadn't survived 15 years in the pharmaceutical industry without learning that sometimes you had to fight dirty. You're right, she said quietly. It is my word against yours. But it's not just my word anymore. She pulled out her phone and pressed play. Ricardo's voice filled the room, a recording from 3 days ago, slightly muffled but perfectly clear. You will sign those documents, Elena. No. You think you have a choice? I know about the irregularities in your pharmaceutical imports from 2019. One call to the Bureau of Internal Revenue, and... Ricardo lunged for the phone, but Sophia was faster, snatching it away. There's more, Maria Elena said. Much more. I've been recording our conversations for the past 6 months, ever since you started getting more aggressive. At first, I told myself I was being paranoid. But some part of me knew. Some part of me was preparing for this. It was a lie. She hadn't been recording anything. The audio was from a hidden recording app Sophia had installed on her mother's phone just yesterday, and they'd staged a conversation to create evidence. It wouldn't hold up in court, but Ricardo didn't need to know that. Not yet. You're bluffing, Ricardo said, but his voice wavered. Am I? Maria Elena moved to the desk, his desk now, but she sat in the chair like she owned it. Like she owned him. Here's what's going to happen, Ricardo. Tomorrow morning, ATTY. Valdez is giving a statement to the journalist. He's going to testify that you coerced me, that he witnessed the threats. Patricia Cruz is going public with her story, and she has 3 million reasons to want you destroyed. The other wives you married and robbed? They're coming forward too. Patricia won't talk. I made sure of that. You threatened her into silence. But silence expires when enough people start shouting. And we're about to get very, very loud. Maria Elena opened the bag, pulled out documents. These are records of your BGC project's real finances. Shell companies. Forged permits. Money that disappeared into offshore accounts. The journalist has forensic accountants reviewing them as we speak. Ricardo's face was ashen now. Those are confidential. They're evidence of fraud. Of money laundering. Of criminal activity that affects hundreds of investors who trusted you. She stood, moved toward him. He actually backed up, the great Ricardo Alcantara, backing away from his ex-wife. You're going to prison, Ricardo. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. Very soon. No. His voice was desperate now. No, I can fix this. I can make this go away. With what? The money you don't actually have? The connections that will abandon you the second they see the Inquirer's headline. Maria Elena shook her head. It's over. You're done. I'll go to the police right now. Tell them you broke into my house, stole my property. Go ahead. She gestured to his phone. Call them. But that journalist? She's sitting in a cafe 3 blocks away, waiting for my text. If I don't check in within the next 10 minutes, she publishes everything online tonight. By dawn, your face will be on every news site in the Philippines. Billionaire scam artist preys on wives. She smiled coldly. How's that for a headline? Ricardo stared at her, and for the first time since she'd known him, she saw genuine fear in his eyes. What do you want? He whispered. What do I want? Maria Elena's voice rose. I want the last 3 years back. I want my father to be alive to never see me make the mistake of marrying you. I want my daughter to respect me again. I want to feel clean, Ricardo, because being near you makes me feel filthy. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of him. But since I can't have any of that, she continued, voice steady, I'll settle for justice. Justice. He laughed bitterly. You want to destroy me for what? For being smarter than you? For seeing an opportunity and taking it? For being a predator? For destroying lives because you could? For thinking women are just assets to be liquidated? She moved closer, invaded his space the way he'd done to her so many times. You made one critical mistake, Ricardo. You assumed I was weak because I loved you. But love doesn't make women weak. It makes us dangerous when we're betrayed. Sophia appeared at her mother's side, phone raised and recording. Say that again, Mr. Alcantara. The part about seeing an opportunity. About women being assets. Please. For the camera. Ricardo's face contorted with rage. You think this is over? You think I'll just let you? The sound of sirens cut through the night. All three of them froze. What did you do? Ricardo demanded. Maria Elena smiled. I didn't call the police, if that's what you're asking. But someone did. She checked her phone, where a text had just arrived from Sylvia, police en route. Anonymous tip about documents related to BGC fraud investigation. Get out now. We need to go, Mama, Sophia said urgently. But Maria Elena stood her ground, facing Ricardo one last time. You asked what I wanted, she said quietly. I want you to know that you didn't break me. You bent me, yes. You hurt me. But Santiagos don't break, Ricardo. My father taught me that. And tonight, you're going to learn it. The sirens were getting closer. The evidence is already with the authorities, Maria Elena continued. Everything in that safe. Copies are with the journalist, with the police, with lawyers who actually have ethics. You can try to make this go away, but it's too late. The story is out there. The truth is out there. I'll fight this, Ricardo snarled. I have lawyers. Then fight. But you'll be fighting from a cell. She turned to Sophia. Let's go. They moved toward the door, but Ricardo grabbed Maria Elena's arm, hard enough to bruise. You'll regret this, he hissed. I'll make you regret. Sophia's phone was still recording. Still capturing every word, every threat, every desperate attempt at intimidation. Let her go, Sophia said coldly. Or add assault to your list of charges. He released her, and they ran. Down the stairs, through the living room, out the side door they'd entered through. The gates were opening, police cars pulling into the circular driveway, their lights painting the mansion in blue and red. Maria Elena and Sophia slipped out through the service entrance, into the garden, over the back wall that Maria Elena had scaled 100 times in her mind but never thought she'd actually climb. They dropped into the alley behind the estate, ran 3 blocks to where Sylvia waited in her car, engine running, passenger doors open. Get in. Sylvia shouted. They dove into the back seat, and the car peeled away just as more police vehicles screamed past, heading toward the mansion. Did you get it? Sylvia asked, eyes on the road. Maria Elena held up the bag. Everything. Documents, USB drives, records of the other wives. And a confession on video, Sophia added, holding up her phone. He literally said he saw an opportunity and took it. Called women assets. Sylvia laughed, wild and triumphant. Jesus. He really did make it easy, didn't he? They drove in silence for a moment, adrenaline slowly fading, reality setting in. What happens now? Maria Elena asked quietly. Now? Now we go to my editor. We review everything you found, verify what we can, and we run the story. Sylvia glanced in the rearview mirror. The police raid tonight, that was the Economic Crimes Unit. They've been building a case against Ricardo for months based on investor complaints. Tonight's anonymous tip gave them probable cause for a warrant. They'll find additional evidence in that safe, assuming there's anything left. What about Mama? Sophia asked. He knows she took the documents. Won't he? He can try to press charges, but he'd have to admit what was in those documents to claim they were stolen. And trust me, he won't want to do that. Sylvia's smile was grim. Besides, by tomorrow morning, he's going to have much bigger problems than your mother. Maria Elena leaned back in the seat, exhaustion crashing over her like a wave. Her hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from the realization of what she'd just done. She'd stood up to the man who'd destroyed her. She'd broken into her former home, stolen evidence, confronted her abuser, and lived to tell about it. She'd fought back. Mama. Sophia's hand found hers in the darkness. You okay? Was she? She'd lost everything. Her home, her business, her money, 3 years of her life. She was living in a studio apartment in Quezon City with 73,000 pesos to her name and an uncertain future. But she'd also found something she'd lost along the way. Her spine. Her courage. Her sense of self-worth that didn't depend on properties or bank accounts or whether someone loved her. "I'm okay," she said, and meant it. "I'm going to be okay." They worked through the night at the Inquirer's offices. Sylvia's editor, a sharp-eyed woman named Gloria Mercado who'd been in journalism for 30 years, reviewed every document with the intensity of a surgeon performing a delicate operation. "This is good," she muttered, flipping through pages. "This is very good. Cruz, you've been sitting on a gold mine and you didn't even know it." "I had help," Sylvia said, nodding toward Maria Elena. Gloria looked at her, really looked at her, and Maria Elena saw something she hadn't seen in anyone's eyes for days. Respect. "Mrs. Alcantara," Gloria said, "what you did tonight took incredible courage. But you understand that going public with this will change your life? Ricardo Alcantara has powerful friends. They'll come after you. Your reputation, your credibility, they'll try to destroy everything." "They can try," Maria Elena said quietly. "But there's not much left to destroy. And what there is, it's stronger than they think." Gloria smiled. "Good. Because we're going to need you to go on record. Full interview. Your story, in your words. No anonymity, no protection. You'll be the face of this expose." Maria Elena's stomach clenched. Going public meant exposing everything. Her failed marriage, her poor judgment, the fact that she'd been manipulated and used. It meant admitting she'd been a victim. But it also meant other women might avoid the same fate. "When do we start?" she asked. The interview took 4 hours. Sylvia and Gloria asked questions, recorded answers, verified facts. Maria Elena told them everything, from the moment she'd met Ricardo at the Manila Hotel rooftop bar to the moment she'd climbed out of her own back wall 3 hours ago. She told them about the other wives. About Patricia Cruz and Teresa Villanueva and Carmen Santos. About how Ricardo had a pattern, a system, a methodology for seducing successful women and stripping them of their assets. "He's a predator," she said, looking directly into the camera. "And I'm not his only victim. But I'm going to be his last." When it was done, when the cameras were off and the recorders stopped, Gloria handed her a cup of coffee and sat beside her. "You know this goes live in 6 hours, right? Sunday edition, front page, with the online version publishing at dawn. Once it's out there, there's no taking it back." "I know. Your life will never be the same." "It's already not the same," Maria Elena said. "But maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe the life I had before, the one where I prioritized wealth and status over everything else, maybe that needed to end anyway." Gloria studied her. "You're stronger than you look, Mrs. Alcantara." "I learned from experience that looks can be deceiving," Maria Elena replied. "Ricardo taught me that." The story broke at 6 a.m. Billionaire's Bride. How Ricardo Alcantara Built His Empire on the Ruins of His Wives' Lives. By Sylvia Domingo. The online version went viral within hours. By noon, it had been shared 50,000 times. By evening, it was the top trending topic on Philippine social media. Maria Elena's phone exploded with notifications. Messages from old friends, colleagues, people she hadn't spoken to in years. Most were supportive. Some were cruel, calling her stupid, greedy, asking how she could have been so blind. She ignored those. She'd asked herself the same questions enough times. But there were other messages too. Messages from women she didn't know. "Thank you for speaking up. He targeted my sister 2 years ago. She was too afraid to report it. My mother lost everything to a man like this. You gave her hope that justice is possible. I'm going through something similar right now. Your story gave me courage to leave." Those messages, those made everything worth it. At 3 p.m., her phone rang. Unknown number again. "Mrs. Alcantara? This is Detective Ramos from the Economic Crimes Unit. We'd like you to come in for a statement regarding Ricardo Alcantara's activities." "Of course. When?" "As soon as possible. We've arrested Mr. Alcantara this morning on charges of fraud, money laundering, and financial coercion. Your testimony will be crucial to building the case." Maria Elena's breath caught. "He's been arrested?" "Yes. The documents recovered from his safe, combined with your statement and those of other victims, gave us sufficient evidence. His being held without bail pending trial. She should have felt triumphant. Vindicated. Instead, she just felt tired. I'll be there within the hour, she said. The police station was in McCarty, not far from where her mansion stood. No, where Ricardo's mansion stood now. She couldn't think of it as hers anymore. Detective Ramos was a middle-aged man with kind eyes and the weary look of someone who'd seen too much human cruelty. "Thank you for coming, Mrs. Alcantara," he said, leading her to an interview room. "I know this must be difficult. Detective, if my testimony helps put him away, it's worth any difficulty." They went through everything again. The courtship, the marriage, the subtle shifts in Ricardo's behavior, the threats, the forced signing. She signed statements, provided the recording Sophia had made, confirmed details. "There's something you should know," Detective Ramos said when they were done. "We've been investigating Mr. Alcantara for 18 months. We knew something was wrong with his finances, but we couldn't prove it. The paper trail was too complex, too well hidden. So what changed?" "You did." He leaned forward. "When you came forward, when you went public with your story, 3 other women contacted us within hours. Former wives, former business partners, former investors. They all had pieces of the puzzle. Together, it's enough to put him away for 20 years. 20 years. Ricardo was 55. He'd be 75 when he got out, if he survived that long in prison. Will the charges stick?" Maria Elena asked. "He has lawyers, connections. We have documentary evidence, multiple witness testimonies, and a very angry public following this story. Trust me, no judge wants to be seen as protecting him right now." Detective Ramos smiled slightly. "You did something very brave, Mrs. Alcantara. You should be proud." Proud. She turned the word over in her mind. Was she proud? Or just relieved it was almost over? "Can I see him?" she asked suddenly. "Ricardo. Can I see him?" Detective Ramos hesitated. "I don't recommend it. For your safety and emotional well-being." "I need to. Please. Just 5 minutes." He studied her face, then nodded slowly. 5 minutes. And you'll be separated by glass." They brought her to the detention area. Ricardo sat in a small room behind reinforced glass, wearing an orange jumpsuit that looked obscene on him. He'd always been so particular about his appearance. Silk suits, Italian shoes, perfect hair. Now he just looked small. Defeated. When he saw her, rage flashed across his face, but it was tinged with something else. Fear. Maria Elena picked up the phone. After a moment, he did the same. "Come to gloat?" he asked, his voice bitter. "No," she said quietly. "I came to tell you something." "What? That you've destroyed me? That I'll rot in prison?" "I know, Elena. Congratulations. You won." "I didn't win, Ricardo. Nobody wins in this. You destroyed lives. Mine, Patricia's, Teresa's, Carmen's, and God knows how many others. I lost 3 years and everything I built. None of us won. Then why are you here?" Maria Elena took a breath. "Because I need you to know that I forgive you." He stared at her, stunned. "I forgive you," she repeated. "Not for you. For me. Because carrying hatred and bitterness for the rest of my life would just be another way you'd control me. And I'm done being controlled by you." "You're insane," he whispered. "Maybe. Or maybe I'm finally sane." She stood up, preparing to leave. "You tried to take everything from me, Ricardo. And you succeeded. I have nothing material left. But you couldn't take my dignity. You couldn't take my strength. And you couldn't take the lesson you've taught me." "What lesson?" She smiled, genuinely smiled, for the first time in weeks. "That the only person who can truly destroy me is me. And I choose not to." She hung up the phone and walked away, leaving him sitting there behind glass. She didn't look back. 6 months later, Maria Elena stood in front of a modest storefront in Quezon City, keys in her hand, staring at the freshly painted sign above the door, Santiago Pharmaceuticals, Community Wellness Center. It wasn't Forbes Park. It wasn't a mansion with Italian marble floors or a Tagaytay estate with coffee plantations. But it was hers. Truly hers. "Mama, the delivery truck is here." Sophia called from inside. "Where do you want the supply shelves?" Maria Elena smiled and walked through the door, her door, into the space she'd spent the last 3 months renovating with her own hands and a small loan from a community development bank. The wellness center was small but bright, with large windows that let in the morning sun. One half was a pharmacy, returning to her roots, to her father's legacy. The other half was a consultation area where she planned to offer free health screenings and wellness education to the community. It wasn't an empire. But it was honest. And it was enough. "Put them against the back wall," she directed, rolling up her sleeves. She wore jeans and a simple blouse, no designer labels, no jewelry except the simple gold cross her father had given her when she opened her first pharmacy decades ago. She'd had to buy it back from a pawn shop last month, but it was worth every peso. Sophia appeared beside her, hair tied back in a ponytail, wearing paint-stained overalls. Her daughter had taken a leave of absence from her architecture job in Cebu, insisting on staying in Manila to help her mother rebuild. "I'm so proud of you, Mama," Sophia said quietly. Maria Elena blinked back tears, happy tears this time. "I should be saying that to you, Anak. You gave up so much to help me. You're my mother. You would have done the same." Sophia hugged her tight. "Besides, I learned more in the past 6 months than in 4 years of architecture school. Like how to negotiate with suppliers, how to file business permits, and how to tell predatory lenders to go to hell." Maria Elena laughed. Genuinely laughed. It felt good. When was the last time she'd laughed like this? The bell above the door chimed. A woman entered, late 30s, professionally dressed, with nervous eyes that Maria Elena recognized all too well. "Excuse me," the woman said hesitantly. "Are you Maria Elena Santiago?" "I am." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "I'm Ana Reyes. I read your article in the Inquirer. About Ricardo Alcantara." She took a shaky breath. "My husband is doing the same thing to me. Slowly taking control of my assets, isolating me from my family, threatening me when I question him. I didn't realize what was happening until I read your story." Maria Elena's heart clenched. She'd received dozens of messages like this over the past months. Women trapped in similar situations, women who'd seen themselves in her story. "Sit," she said gently, guiding Anna to one of the chairs in the consultation area. "Tell me everything." 2 hours later, Anna left with contact information for lawyers, support groups, and a safety plan. Maria Elena watched her go, feeling the weight of responsibility and purpose settling on her shoulders. This was why she'd rebuilt. Not to regain wealth or status, but to help others avoid the mistakes she'd made. "Another one?" Sophia asked softly. "Third this week." Maria Elena looked at her daughter. "I've been thinking. Maybe the wellness center should include support services too. Legal referrals, counseling resources, financial literacy workshops. For women escaping abusive relationships. For anyone who needs help rebuilding their lives." Maria Elena's mind was already racing with possibilities. "We could partner with NGOs, with the social welfare department, with..." "Mama, breathe," Sophia laughed. "You're doing it again. The thing where you see a problem and immediately start building an empire to solve it." "I'm not building an empire," Maria Elena protested. "Just a small community service. That will grow into something bigger because that's who you are." Sophia's expression softened. "But this time, you're building it on the right foundation. Not wealth or status or other people's approval. But purpose. And that's beautiful." The bell chimed again. This time it was Sylvia Domingo, carrying a folder and wearing her trademark blazer. "Morning, ladies," she called out. "I come bearing news." Maria Elena's stomach tightened. "Good news or bad news?" "Depends on your perspective." Sylvia sat down, spreading papers on the consultation table. Ricardo's trial concluded yesterday. Guilty on all counts: fraud, money laundering, financial coercion, theft. The judge sentenced him to 25 years, no possibility of parole for 15. 25 years. Maria Elena felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction, no vindication. Just a quiet sense of closure. How did he react? Sophia asked. Broke down completely. His lawyers are appealing, but it won't go anywhere. The evidence was overwhelming. Sylvia looked at Maria Elena. The judge also ordered asset forfeiture. Everything Ricardo owned, the properties, the businesses, the offshore accounts, all of it is being liquidated to compensate his victims. Maria Elena's breath caught. The Forbes Park mansion. Being sold at auction. The Tagate estate too. Sylvia paused. You have first right of refusal as one of the victims. If you want to buy them back at the auction price. No. Both Sylvia and Sophia stared at her. Mama, that's your home, Sophia said. Your coffee plantation, my past, Maria Elena said gently. Those places represented who I thought I needed to be. Successful, wealthy, impressive. But they were never really mine. I was just borrowing them from my own insecurity. She looked around the modest wellness center. This is mine. This matters. Those properties? Let them go to someone who needs them more. Sylvia smiled. You've changed. I had to. The old Maria Elena would have bankrupted herself trying to buy back those properties just to prove she could. But I don't need to prove anything anymore. Not to Ricardo, not to society, not even to myself. Have you ever let go of something you once thought was everything? Sometimes losing what we wanted gives us what we actually need. What did you discover when you let go? Share your journey below. There's more, Sylvia continued. The other victims, Patricia, Teresa, Carmen, they're all receiving compensation from the liquidation. Patricia reached out to me yesterday. She wants to thank you personally. She said your story gave her the courage to finally come forward. I'd like to meet her, Maria Elena said. All of them. Maybe we could, she glanced at Sophia, who was grinning knowingly, maybe we could start a support group. For women rebuilding their lives after financial abuse. There's the empire building again, Sophia teased. It's not an empire. It's just a community, Sylvia finished. Which is better than an empire anyway. She pulled out another document. One more thing. The Inquirer wants to do a follow-up article. 6 months later. Where are you now? What have you learned? Are you interested? Maria Elena hesitated. The first article had been necessary, exposing Ricardo, warning other women, seeking justice. But did she want to keep reliving that trauma publicly? Then she thought of Ana Reyes, who'd walked through her door this morning. Of the messages she still received weekly from women who'd seen themselves in her story. Yes, she said. But I want to focus on the rebuilding, not just the destruction. I want women to know that surviving isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning. The follow-up article ran 2 weeks later, From Ashes to Action, Maria Elena Santiago's journey from victim to advocate. It featured photos of the wellness center, testimonials from community members, and Maria Elena's own words about starting over at 42 with nothing but determination and purpose. The response was overwhelming. Donations poured in from readers, not large amounts, but small contributions from people who wanted to support the wellness center's mission. A prominent NGO reached out about partnership opportunities. A university invited her to speak about financial literacy and recognizing abusive relationships. And the women kept coming. Women like Anna, like Patricia, like Teresa and Carmen. Women who needed help, needed hope, needed to see proof that life could be rebuilt after devastation. Maria Elena met with each one. Listened to their stories. Connected them with resources. And slowly, quietly, she began to heal too. 3 months after the wellness center opened, on a sunny Saturday morning, Maria Elena stood behind the pharmacy counter filling prescriptions when a familiar face appeared. 82Y. Ernesto Valdez. He looked older, grayer. His expensive suit had been replaced with something more modest. Mrs. Alcantara, he said quietly. May I speak with you? Maria Elena's first instinct was to refuse. This was the man who'd sat in her living room and watched her be coerced into signing away everything. The man who'd chosen professional convenience over ethics. But she'd learned something about forgiveness over the past months. It wasn't about excusing wrongdoing. It was about releasing the poison of bitterness from your own heart. Of course, attorney, she said. Sophia, can you cover the counter? They sat in the consultation area. Valdez wouldn't meet her eyes. I came to apologize, he said finally. For my role in what happened. For my cowardice. For prioritizing my career over doing what was right. Why now? Maria Elena asked, not unkindly. Because I've been disbarred. He laughed bitterly. My testimony against Ricardo was used to build the case, yes. But the Bar Association also investigated my conduct. Facilitating coercion, failing to report criminal activity, I violated every ethical standard. He finally looked up. I lost my license. My reputation. My daughter won't speak to me. Maria Elena felt a pang of sympathy despite everything. I'm sorry. Don't be. I earned it. He pulled out an envelope. I've been working as a paralegal now. Learning to do honest work again. And I saved this money from selling my car, my condo, everything I owned that was purchased with blood money. He pushed the envelope across the table. It's not much. 50,000 pesos. But it's clean money, earned honestly. I want you to have it. For the wellness center. As a small attempt at restitution. Maria Elena stared at the envelope. 50,000 pesos wouldn't buy back her mansion or her business. But from a man who'd lost everything trying to atone for his mistakes? It was priceless. Attorney Valdez, she said carefully, I accept your apology. And I forgive you, truly forgive you. But I can't take this money. His face fell. Instead, she continued, I want to offer you a job. He blinked. What? The wellness center is expanding. We need help with legal referrals, with teaching community members about their rights, about recognizing predatory contracts and financial abuse. You made mistakes, but you also know the law. And you understand the cost of compromising your ethics. She leaned forward. Help me prevent what happened to me from happening to others. Use your knowledge for good this time. Tears streamed down Valdez's face. I don't deserve. None of us deserve the second chances we get, attorney. But we get them anyway. What matters is what we do with them. She smiled. So? Do you want the job or not? Fair warning, the pay is terrible and the hours are long. He laughed through his tears. When can I start? 6 months after that, a year since Ricardo had forced her to sign away her empire, Maria Elena stood on a small stage in the wellness center's expanded community room. The space was packed. Sofia sat in the front row beside Patricia Cruz, Teresa Villanueva, and Carmen Santos, Ricardo's other victims, now Maria Elena's friends and fellow advocates. Sylvia was there with her camera, documenting everything. 80 to Y. Valdez stood at the back, monitoring the legal workshop materials. And scattered throughout the room were dozens of women. Some she'd helped directly, others who'd simply heard her story and wanted to learn, to connect, to rebuild. Thank you all for coming, Maria Elena began. A year ago, I lost everything. My home, my business, my savings, everything I'd spent 15 years building. At the time, I thought it was the end of my life. She paused, looking around the room at all the faces watching her with hope and determination. But it wasn't the end. It was just the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. A better chapter, actually. Because the things I lost, they were just things. Property, money, status. Important, yes, but not essential. What I've gained. She smiled. Purpose. Community. Connection. The knowledge that my worth isn't determined by my bank account or the size of my house, but by the lives I touch and the good I can do. Applause rippled through the room. This wellness center started as just a small pharmacy. A way to get back to my roots, to my father's legacy of honest service. But it's become so much more. She gestured around the room. It's become a community hub. A safe space. A place where people can come for help, medical, legal, emotional, financial, without judgment, without shame. More applause. We've helped over 300 families this year. We've connected 47 women with resources to escape abusive relationships. We've taught financial literacy workshops to 200 community members. And we've proved that you don't need millions of pesos to make a difference. You just need commitment, compassion, and courage. Standing ovation now. Maria Elena felt tears pricking her eyes but refused to let them fall. Not yet. I want to announce something, she continued when the applause died down. Thanks to generous donations and a partnership with the Department of Social Welfare, We're opening 2 more wellness centers. One in Cebu, she looked at Sophia, who was crying openly now, and one in Davao. We're also launching a scholarship program for women who want to start their own businesses after leaving abusive situations. The room erupted in cheers. None of this would be possible without every single person in this room. You believed in this vision when it was just an idea. You supported it when we had nothing but hope. You proved that communities are built not by billionaires with empires, but by ordinary people doing extraordinary things together. She stepped down from the stage, overwhelmed by people wanting to hug her, thank her, share their own stories of rebuilding. Sophia pushed through the crowd and wrapped her arms around her mother. Papa would be so proud, she whispered, meaning her grandfather, the simple pharmacist who'd started it all. I hope so, Anak, Maria Elena whispered back. I really hope so. That night, after the crowd had dispersed and the wellness center was quiet, Maria Elena sat alone in her small office, really just a desk in the corner, reviewing the day's receipts and upcoming plans. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mrs. Alcantara, my name is Jennifer Mendoza. I just left my husband who was financially abusing me. I have 2 children and nowhere to go. I read your article and I don't know if you can help, but I don't know who else to ask. Maria Elena's heart clenched. She looked around her modest office, at the wellness center she'd built from nothing, at the life she'd reconstructed from ruins. Then she texted back, Jennifer, come to Santiago Wellness Center tomorrow at 9 a.m. Bring your children. We'll figure this out together. You're not alone anymore. She set down her phone and allowed herself a moment of reflection. A year ago, she'd been on the floor of a mansion that wasn't hers anymore, broken and devastated. Now she was in a simple wellness center that was entirely hers, whole and purposeful. A year ago, she'd had millions in assets but had felt worthless. Now she had almost nothing but felt invaluable. A year ago, she'd been trying to prove her worth to the world. Now she knew her worth came from within, and from the good she could do for others. The door opened. Sophia appeared with 2 cups of instant coffee. Thought you might need this, she said, sitting beside her mother. Big day tomorrow. Jennifer Mendoza is coming, plus we have 3 new volunteers starting, and the social welfare coordinator wants to discuss the Cebu expansion. Sounds like a good problem to have, Maria Elena said, accepting the coffee. They sat in comfortable silence, mother and daughter, survivors and fighters, looking ahead to tomorrow's challenges with confidence born from surviving yesterday's storms. Mama. Sophia said softly. Do you ever regret it? Marrying Ricardo, I mean. All that pain, all that loss, do you wish you could go back and change it? Maria Elena considered the question. Did she regret the pain? The betrayal? The humiliation of being stripped of everything she'd built? Of course she did. But would she change it if she could? She looked around the wellness center, at the lives being rebuilt here, the hope being restored, the community being forged from shared pain and collective resilience. She thought of Patricia, Teresa, and Carmen. Women she'd never have met, never have helped, if she hadn't survived the same nightmare they had. She thought of Jennifer Mendoza, who'd reach out tomorrow for help and would receive it because Maria Elena had learned to transform her own tragedy into purpose. No, she said finally. I don't wish I could change it. Because that pain, that loss, it taught me what really matters. It stripped away everything superficial and left only what was essential. My strength. My compassion. My ability to rise again. She smiled at her daughter. If I'd never fallen, I'd never have learned how strong I am. And I'd never have been able to help others discover their own strength. Sophia leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. You're kind of amazing, you know that. I'm kind of ordinary, Maria Elena corrected. Which is the point. If someone ordinary like me can survive, can rebuild, can thrive, then anyone can. That's the real message. That's the real hope. 2 years later, the annual Rise Again fundraising gala was held at a mid-range hotel in Quezon City. Nothing fancy, but respectable. Maria Elena had insisted on keeping it modest. They were raising money to help struggling families, after all. Extravagance would send the wrong message. She stood at the entrance, greeting guests. The room was full, community members, volunteers, donors, and dozens of women who'd passed through the wellness center's programs. Patricia Cruz arrived with her new business partner. She'd started a catering company and was thriving. Teresa Villanueva came with her daughter, who'd just finished college thanks to the scholarship program. Carmen Santos had remarried, this time to a genuinely good man who supported her independence. 80 to Y. Valdez arrived in his modest suit, now serving as the legal director for the Santiago Wellness Foundation, as it had been officially renamed. He'd rebuilt his reputation through honest, tireless work advocating for abuse survivors. Sylvia Domingo was there with her husband, still documenting the foundation's work and running interference when media attention got too intense. And Sophia, beautiful, fierce Sophia, was the foundation's operations director, having permanently relocated from Cebu to help her mother grow the mission. The MC called Maria Elena to the stage to give the keynote speech. She walked up, no longer nervous about public speaking. She'd told her story so many times now, in courtrooms, in classrooms, in community centers across the Philippines. Each time, it got a little easier. 2 years ago, she began, I stood in a living room signing away everything I'd spent 15 years building. I thought my life was over. I thought I'd lost everything that mattered. She paused, looking out at the sea of faces, faces of survivors, fighters, rebuilders. But I was wrong. I hadn't lost everything. I'd lost material things. Yes. Property, money, status. But I still had the things that actually mattered, my daughter, my integrity, my capacity to love and to fight and to grow. And most importantly, I still had myself. She smiled, feeling genuine joy bubbling up from somewhere deep inside. The Wellness Foundation has now served over 2,000 families across 3 cities. We've helped 173 women escape abusive relationships. We've provided scholarships to 48 women starting new businesses. We've taught financial literacy to over 1,000 community members. And we've proved something I once forgot but now remember every single day. She leaned into the microphone, her voice strong and clear. We proved that empires built on exploitation always fall. But communities built on compassion last forever. We proved that wealth without ethics is worthless, but purpose without profit is priceless. And we proved that the truest measure of success isn't what you accumulate, but what you give away. Standing ovation. Thunderous applause. Maria Elena descended from the stage, embraced by Sophia, surrounded by the community she'd helped build from the ashes of her former life. Later that evening, as the event wound down, she stepped outside for air. The Manila night was warm, the traffic noise a familiar lullaby. Her phone buzzed. An email notification from the Department of Justice. Dear Mrs. Santiago, we are pleased to inform you that you have been selected as this year's recipient of the Gawad sa Kababayan Award for your advocacy work supporting women survivors of financial abuse. She read it twice, then smiled and put her phone away. Awards were nice. Recognition was gratifying. But they weren't why she did this work. She did it because every day, women like Jennifer Mendoza walked through the wellness center doors, broken, scared, desperate, and walked out months later with their heads high, their futures bright, their spirits unbroken. She did it because transformation was possible. Redemption was real. And rising from the ashes wasn't just a metaphor, it was a choice available to anyone brave enough to make it. She did it because her father had taught her that dignity couldn't be taken, only surrendered. And she'd spent 2 years proving that lesson true. Sophia appeared beside her, slipping an arm around her waist. Ready to head home, Mama. Home. Their modest 3-bedroom apartment in Quezon City, where they lived simply but joyfully. Where the walls were covered not with expensive art, but with photos of the women they'd helped and thank you cards from grateful families. Where every piece of furniture had been earned through honest work and every meal was cooked with love instead of served by staff. It wasn't Forbes Park. It would never be Forbes Park. But it was home. Really, truly home. Yes, Anak, Maria Elena said, squeezing her daughter close. Let's go home. As they walked to the car, a reliable but modest sedan, not a luxury vehicle, Maria Elena felt something she hadn't felt in the 3 years she'd been married to Ricardo, in all the years she'd built her pharmaceutical empire, in all the time she'd lived in mansions and counted her wealth. Peace. Complete. Unshakable. Bone-deep peace. Because she'd finally learned the truth that wealth and status had hidden from her for so long. The only empire worth building is one that serves others. The only success worth pursuing is one that lifts others up. And the only life worth living is one where you can look in the mirror every morning and recognize the person staring back, not because of what they own, but because of who they are. Maria Elena Santiago had lost everything. And in losing everything, she'd found herself. And that, in the end, was the greatest victory of all. Maria Elena's journey shows us that sometimes we have to lose everything to find what truly matters. Have you ever experienced a loss that, in hindsight, became a gift? What did you discover about yourself when everything else was stripped away? Share your story of rising from your own ashes in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Let's build a community of survivors and fighters together. Don't forget to like this video if Maria Elena's story moved you. Subscribe for more inspiring stories of resilience and redemption, and share this with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to start over. Remember, you are not what you own. You are not your bank account. You are not your past mistakes. You are your courage, your compassion, and your capacity to rise again. Always. This beautiful story is dedicated to every woman who's ever been told she's nothing without her wealth, her beauty, or her relationship status. You are everything. Never forget that. Thanks for watching till the end. We know you loved this story, and there are many more thrilling ones waiting for you. Just click on the video on your screen to dive into the next chapter.